The law of creation is that our mothers are primary. Our mothers are first. The women are the power. The men only represent under the authority of the women. And it was through the knowledge of the Degani Diyohade which established the Great Peace amongst the Five Nations Confederacy. Stopped 5 nations from killing themselves, from committing suicide. So that behavior saved us, brought us out of the Dark Ages. For 1,500 years we had peace. And again, to have great peace, our mothers must be in power as the authority. So, this is the way we lived. And when your ancestors came here, they seen this. Hey, the women were in power. Of course, your women love that. Because your women, the women in the non-native world, have been oppressed, raped, and murdered for thousands of years. What the early Romans used to do is kidnap the children of their enemies or of the people that they want to invade. Kidnap their children, bring them into Roman court, raise them in Roman court, fill their mind with all the lies, all the corruption, and then send those children back home once their minds are changed, once their identity is changed. They'll send their children back home, and then when the Romans came to invade, the people in that community would look for somebody who knows something about the Romans. Well, who do you think it was? It was the children that the Romans kidnapped and filled their mind with the garbage, put inside of those people, and so they did not realize what they are, what they were. They were corrupted, and they were a traitor to their own people, treasonous to their own people.
Sisters or brothers taking look like little bodies under white wrappings or white cloth, and putting into the furnace. And the Queen came and visited for about 3 days, 2-3 days. I don't know how long it was. I think it was about 3 days actually, and a lot of children went missing there. In
order to have the residential schools, it went all the way up to that guy that you called the Pope. All the way up to him to say, yes, kidnap, molest, rape, murder children. That is the behavior within that system anyways. That is that religion. To always prey upon the children. And those people, of course, then started to fill the elected Indian Act Band Councils, which is a puppet regime of the British Crown, placed here to destroy us. So right now, in this day and age, anybody that you know that is a part of the elected Indian Act Band Council, part of the so-called Assembly of First Nations, those are not Native people. I don't care if they speak their language, I don't care what they say to you. They have pledged their allegiance to that woman that you call the Queen. And in pledging their allegiance, they are enemy to me, and by participating in the false man-made governmental system of democapitalism, they left their identity of being matrilineal to pick up the poison of male dominance.
All right, someone has to make this video, and that someone is going to be me. All right, so when I first heard about Flat Earth, I thought of this image, and this is the image they want you to think of. Earth just flat, you know, hanging out with a bunch of spherical planets. It looks ridiculous. And then the Flat Earth Society, which I found out is run by a bunch of Freemasons with their candlesticks and compasses, they go around telling people this. You know, the news always sends somebody out there to interview someone, and they're like, yeah, you fall off the edge into outer space. That is planned deception. They're trying to keep you away from the truth. You see, a true flat earther doesn't believe this. They don't believe that outer space or aliens or anything like that exists. They believe in the idea of entities, demons and angels. They believe in the Bible and Jesus and God, that we were created on a flat earth with a local sun and moon above us, circling. Okay, and then the stars are fixed to the firmament, and then the wandering stars are all named after Greek gods or lowercase g gods, and they happen to be called the planets, which is taken from the Greek planetes, which means to lead astray. So NASA leads you guys all astray by creating the solar system and outer space when that doesn't exist. You see, there's a reason why they've made so many science fiction movies in the last 70 years, since World War II. There's a lot of secrets coming out, and the moon is just a plasma. The moon and stars are not even in NASA footage or flat earth footage because they are meant to be seen from the earth. You see, the only thing you see up there is the sun. So there is a lot of truth that's going on. Right now, a lot of people are waking up. But this right up here, that's not it. That's not what we believe. That's what the Flat Earth Society believes, but they are deceivers themselves. They're not us, okay? Read the Bible, read the Book of Enoch. It's there.
What we really live in, my brothers and sisters, is a dimension. The lowest part of heaven, highest part of hell. The Saturn moon matrix in the 3D. The flat earth matrix. Everything looks flat through perception. But this is why it's all encoded with numbers. Saturn and the moon are broadcasting this fake parasitic reality into our frequency range. This is the Saturn cube matrix. This virtual reality we're experiencing has a hex over it. We're stuck in this three-dimensional frequency range because that's what Saturn is creating for us. The moon picks up the reality broadcasted by Saturn and further distorts it into a square waves to keep you operating in the masculine left brain. Right now, we are inside of our own heads, sharing in a collective dream to experience ourselves subjectively, universe. But our dream has been hijacked by an artificial intelligence, a virus, which has turned this into an energy extraction matrix to produce vibrational food for non-human entities. This holographic universe is fractal. So we are a microcosm of it. And these entities, these interdimensional entities are what we call demons. Okay? The reptilians, the archons. Saturn is the computer, a time cube. The moon is the interface modular, and Earth is the simulator. This is why everything is encoded with numbers. And we see organic synchronicity over and over again. The true creator, the Most High, created this for us to incarnate here and learn our life lessons and eventually ascend, but it's been hijacked by these fallen angels, these lower vibrational entities that are literally psychic vampires and feeding off of us. Now, knowledge, perception bubble, aka the consciousness matrix, which has been deliberately created for centuries by the elite to hide the real world and how it really works under the hood for most of us. Inside a knowledge perception bubble, everyone agrees with each other simply because of the fact that they do not know about the existence of other forms of knowledge, dimensions, worlds. But what happens if someone peeks through the veil? We live in a multiverse. So Everything we've been taught from birth has been a lie. Now, note, they depict the 7 planets representing the 7 chakras being imprisoned by the moon matrix. How strange. Everybody is all locked down. Now, less than a year from this prison planet image appearing in the Dragon Ball Heroes, not only that an image like this just screams Soul Matrix to anyone who knows anything about this parasitic entities, archons that have enslaved us. An image like this appearing speaks volumes to the realization that we are not free. As long as we are trapped within this reincarnation matrix, we must escape. That is our sole purpose here, to ascend to the higher dimensions, to what we call heaven, which is through the sun.
I'd like to introduce my friend Lester. He's going to talk to you about tribal law and the first law of the land.
Everybody here is a descendant of a tribe that makes up the 6 Aboriginal treaties that is the foundation of all international law, including today. To begin with, I'm going to name those 6 treaties. Now, you won't find them in your university library. So here they are. American Indian tribes were known as the Americus Empire. Now, here's the treaties. And we're not talking about the recent 1 to 10 that stole this country. We're talking about treaties before Columbus that we have with the rest of the world. Canes of Authority, Wampum Belts, and Peace Pipe Treaties. There's 3. All Asians and minor Asians were under the Palladium of Troy Treaty. Palladium of Troy Treaty. All blacks, Arabs, and Israelites were under the Seal of Solomon Treaty. All Saxon, Anglia, Mercia, Northumbrian groups, Cleopatra tribes, or the white tribes of Europe, were covered under Noah's Ark Treaty. Remember now, Noah's Ark is not a boat per se, it's a treaty. So, those are the 6 treaties. Now, here's the law. Every civilized nation, civilized, dwell on that word for a while. Every civilized nation in the world is governed by these 6 Aboriginal treaties that make up all international law. Hence, from them come the law of nations, which has clan mothers who hold territorial rights. In order to be part of these treaties, you would have to belong to a tribal unit that was ruled by the Casa Somesis, which is known in international law as clan mothers, or the women.
I remember when I was in grade 1, I was in foster care, and I went to bed. I woke up, I didn't wake up. I was playing in this sand pit with a friend, with some Hot Wheels cars, and we were playing there. Then we went to the teeter-totter. It used to be right there. And playing there. I noticed what we were doing, his was going higher than mine, and I kind of got jealous. So I waited for him to put his face over the teeter-totter, and then I pushed down. I made him cry. And then, standing in the sun, I heard this voice, "Son, go say you're sorry. You don't hurt your brothers and sisters. You all belong to me," like that. And I was looking around, and he just like a scolding father. I couldn't see where it's coming from until I looked at the sun. And he was standing in the sun, like in the same direction right there. And when he said we all belong to him, I was a Edomite, a white brother I was playing with. And yeah, so that's the message there. We all come from that tree of life, Christ. And this is Kelsey School, where I used to go to school when I was in foster care. And the next day, when I woke up, I grabbed my favorite Hot Wheels car, ate my breakfast, and wouldn't wait for the bus, came to school, came to here. And we're playing in recess time. And me and my buddy, let's go play at the teeter-totter. We went from the sand pit with our cars to the teeter-totter. Started putting them on top of the seat, and we were pushing them down. The seats down, making the cars go high so you could go higher. And I noticed his was going higher and higher. I got jealous, and I waited for him to put his face there, and I pushed it down. And that's when I remembered that dream. It was all happening at that moment. I looked for the sun there, and there's nobody standing in there. But I can remember that voice, "Go say you're sorry. You all belong to me." So that message is there. We all come from the tree, and the system is not the one. That's the one who stole them. Put the sacred ceremony into word. So following that vision, all these visions I had, following Jesus, it led me to the tree of life. It didn't lead me to only reading a book or going to building churches that were brought here by the ones who killed him. And they put a spear through him, nailed him to a plank of wood, making fun of him because he's the Mastiganapu, stick man. Works for God. Jesus is not God. He's the Son. And the nature is the mother. That's where the ceremonies are, and the languages, and the symbols, and all this, all natural stuff. Honor thy mother, honor thy father. So I just wanted to make this video. It did happen.
Right. Well, there's a restoration that's taking place. Whereas even 2 or 3 generations ago, you had the boarding schools run by the churches with a sign over the door that said, "Kill the Indian, save the man." That is the impact of Christianity on Native people. When all along many of our practices were right there in Scripture. And so when we're talking with the traditionals, and we're telling them about the people of the scrolls, is what the Cherokee called one Sephardic Jewish settlement that was in the Appalachian Mountains in about the 1600s, and there's archaeological evidence of that at Brasstown Bald. A wedding actually took place September 17th, 1612 or 14, I think it was. So the people of the scroll were very much a part of the communities that lived there. They mined the copper mines. But to be told by the missionaries, the forced assimilation programs, the Carlisle Indian School, where they took our kids to and forced assimilated them into a culture.
This is called the awakening of the sleeping giant.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Graham's prophecy. It was about 42 years ago. And right at the end of the 40th year of his prophecy concerning Native Americans being the sleeping giant, and that if we would awaken and come into our calling of Yeshua, then we would become the next great evangelists to win the country back to salvation.
And to bring revival. And 40 years to the date, Indian country has spiritually exploded. So that's what's happening in Indian country right now. And it's the ecclesia, it's a called out assembly, of all these native people who are saying, wait a minute, we have a lot in common here. Now we use scripture as the filter of what in our culture of tradition is not of God. There's things, somebody asked later, what did our people call Satan? Most of our tribes called him the trickster. And in all of our stories, the trickster is always devouring, causing problems, dividing people. And so this restoration that's taking place is powerful, and I think it's also part of what we read in Isaiah of the nations coming to Yahweh, Yahuwah, and saying, we've inherited nothing but lies and traditions from our fathers, doctrines of men that are worthless. Because that is what Native people inherited when the missionaries came here. There's songs. There's a song that it goes Shema Shema Nagena Popaska Shema Shema Nagena Popa Popaska Heya Heya Hoel Ya Heyo Netsegene Selodo Heya Heya Hoel Ya Heyo. So it's Shema Shema Nagena Popaska, and it's listen. The people are gathering together. The people gather to dance before the Creator. So there's Shema right there in that song. Which Shema means to hear. That's where we get Hear, O Israel. In the name of Creator, we sing in our songs. I did an interview with a Orthodox rabbi from Israel, and when I told him the name of this tribe, the Anishinaabe, he said, "What did you say?" I said, Anishinaabe. And he said, in Hebrew, that's Anishinaabeim, which is the people of the prophets. Let's first of all talk about what's not in the pipe. All right. So the only thing that went into a ceremonial pipe was pure tobacco that had been blessed. And that was only used for prayer. The reason being that, one, the tobacco was never inhaled into the lungs because it was considered sacred. And when you prayed, the smoke itself was a physical symbolic reminder of your prayers going up to the Creator. And what does it say in Scripture? That the prayers of the saints go up as incense, go up as smoke before the throne of God. So what the pipe is, it tells us the story of the gospel, even within the pipe. Not only because of the ruach and the breath that's used for prayer, but the pipe stem is made of red pipe stone, which represents the earth, and you've got the wood that's staked into the earth. And it's an instrument used for prayer. In the same manner that there was incenses in the Torah that Yahweh said, do not use this for yourself or the punishment is death. We find that the same thing with the tobacco use in the ceremonial pipes. If it's used for the wrong reason, the tobacco, emphysema, cancer, death, all the curses that are applied to it. But we've known pipe carriers, elders in their 70s, 80s years old, that have nothing wrong with them because they've only used that for the purity that Creator told the people to use it for. Actually, I'll tell you a story of something that took place with some of our elders when a little over 10 years ago they went to Israel, and they went to the Knesset. They went there to protocol. This was a delegation of First Nations chiefs, spiritual leaders, and elders. And again, like I said, it wasn't all the tribes that were monotheistic. There were tribes that were polytheistic and worshiped all sorts of different gods. We're just speaking for the tribes that even my people, after the centuries, ended up worshiping other gods and elements and things. But in the ancient times, we were strictly just believers in one God. But this delegation went to Israel and received permission to go to the wall and to be there on behalf of Chief Cornerstone Yeshua. And so they went down to the wall, and they had their drums, and our elders were dressed in their traditional regalia, and they started to sing traditional songs. These are native songs that have been passed down for generations. Well, immediately the Hasidic Jews, the Orthodox Jews, some of the other, they came and telling them, stop singing right now. And our elders were saying, why? And in our tradition, you can't stop a song. So even if you're singing, you can't just stop the song until it's finished. So the people kept singing, and they said, you're singing in High Hebrew. Who taught you our songs? And the elders said, these songs have been passed down for generations. And then they said, you're singing the name of our Most High Elohim. You must stop. And again, the chiefs and elders said, this is what we've always called him. This is how we've preserved his name in our songs. And so you know what happened? Many of these, the Jewish people that were there at the wall, the Hasidics, the Orthodox, they came, and at the invitation of the native people, came to the drum and started singing with the elders and the spiritual leaders. And they were singing his name out loud.
Kitse asuttamagiunen gamam skotin, yaguminogo gitsitao skog gamam skomaug. I will talk about the treaties and the women that were involved at the time of treaty making. These women were called Ogitsitao Skog. In the Treaty 6 territory, when the treaty making was happening, It was a very, very powerful time. The women have authority over the land. But when they tried to talk to the treaty commissioner about the land, the treaty commissioner wouldn't speak to the women because the Europeans at that time did not speak to the women. So the women stayed in the background. There was a particular group of women called Okitsitauskoak. There is no English word to describe these women. The closest terminology is clan mothers, warrior women. These women were the law keepers of the Cree Nation, the Nihio Aisinoak. And there was 9 of them, 9 very powerfully gifted women. And at the time when treaty was being made, there was many ceremonies happening because it was not an easy decision. It was not an easy thing that the Cree people were going into, and they knew this. They knew that the land was going to be shared with the European people. So they talked about it, and there was ceremony being done. There was a particular ceremony that was done. It was in a lodge of the women. And in that ceremony, there was 4 spirits that came in, and those spirits told the Nihioak what to do, how to direct the discussions with the Europeans. And it was in this lodge that the spirit keepers came in, and there was 4 of them. They said, the first spirit keeper that came in was the sun. The sun said, Niuma pisim, niuma kitoscapius. Nienga pisawi tiniago nohe, asutamagiuna, kitsasutamagiunuma. I am the sun. I am the most profound of helpers to the Creator. And I will bear witness to this exchange, is what the sun said in that ceremony. And then the second spirit keeper that came in there was the water. And that spirit keeper said, Nista, nistangapi sawiti niagoma, kitsosutamagion, niuma nipi. And the spirit keeper said, I am the water. I will come to bear witness to this exchange as well. Nista, he said. And then the third spirit keeper that came in there is Muskosi. The Muskosi is the grass spirit. He said, I too will bear witness to this exchange, this most profound of exchanges. I will come to bear witness to it. And then the fourth spirit keeper that came in there was Xeniosni. Xeniosni said, I will seal this covenant. Xeniosni is the grandfather rock. And this is where our pipes are. It was the pipe that sealed this covenant, this treaty. And after the spirit keepers spoke and committed to bear witness to this exchange, it was the women that spoke about the land and what it is that they wanted to leave for the generations to come. The Okitsitauskoak had a ceremony, and they knew that there was things coming that would affect the generations to come, how it would affect the land, and that the freedom of my people would be diminished. And the women spoke about this in that lodge. So, wa hiawiki taptik ugi skork. The women's compassion was so profound. I kohki ksiwatsitsik yagun gogi skork. Igi mahtaunig uksiwatson. Their compassion was so sacred that they were able to see into the generations to come, that they wanted to leave. The children not born yet, they wanted to leave them something. So they said, we will share the land. So they made treaty entitlements, treaty agreements, treaty understandings that the children would live off the land through agriculture. This agriculture is to benefit the generations to come. And this is what the women decided. So the treaty entitlement to agriculture is very significant. That 1 square mile per family of 5 is very significant as well. That is still yet to be implemented, to be utilized by the treaty people. And I hope for the future that that will begin to be revitalized, because that is our treaty inheritance. That is what those women willed for the generations, so that they would live off of the land in a new way, because they understood that the buffalo were gone, they've diminished, and that the land would be shared. And this is how profound these women were. Very gifted women. And that is what I'll leave you with.
They're everywhere. Just follow the signs.
When I was 9 years old, back in the early 80s, like 83, maybe, 82, 83, I used to walk around with my grandpa, sometimes my granny, and listen to the elders talk all day sometimes. Anyways, one time this elder came in, I think he came in from La Ronge, Saskatchewan, Dene land. And I remember my grandpa was saying he was 96, and he was in the army when he was a young man. Anyways, he was telling the story in English to me and in Cree a little bit while that old man was talking in Dene. And they also said he never spoke English or any other language, just French, Dene and Cree. He was telling the story in Dene, I remember that. And he said when he was 19 or 20, he was in the army, and they got picked out of a whole bunch, just a few, and they went to the North Pole. And when they were there, they said when they got there, they didn't realize it until they were there, that it was kind of warm, and they were on a mountain, and it was like a color of the sky, so they didn't know they were on it right away. Then when they realized it, all the compasses point that way. And the government, he said, the government made that up so they can lie to the people. And then he pointed at me and said, Dene, tell this one, the young people need to know the government is lying to them.